Warning.
This deck will not work for you if all you do is just copy the deck list. Watch this video in its entirety to learn how to use it. Otherwise, the deck will just be a mess of cards to you and you'll get destroyed. With that out of the way, in case you haven't seen the original video, I'll be showing you the main combo this deck is all about. I hope you don't mind, but I'll be reusing the same footage from the original to make it easier on myself and new viewers so they don't have to go hunt it down. Though after that, it'll be all original footage. If you've already seen the original, you can skip to this timestamp here. But if you haven't, or you need a refresher on the combo, stick around. So, let's get to it. Since this is just to show how the combo works, I've stacked the combo pieces on top of the deck with a couple of bricks to add a bit of that Dark Magician authenticity. What we need in our hand going first are these 3 cards or a way to get to them, as well as 1 card to discard. Yes, this is a 3-card combo, but as Dark Magician players, we're already playing a bunch of cards that search these things out, so it's actually way more consistent than it looks. To start the combo, activate Chalice Slime's hand effect. Discard a card from the hand, special summon an incantation monster from your deck. We'll be summoning Candle. Candle's effect activates, adding a ritual spell from our deck to our hand. No, we're not adding Chaos Form, we're adding Incantation Inception. Activate Inception, ritual summon Magician of Chaos. Offer Chalice Slime as tribute. It is level 7 after all. Okay, next up. Activate Inception's graveyard effect. Tribute an Inception monster to special summon another one from the deck. We're gonna summon Talismandra. His effect activates to search for a ritual monster from the deck. We're adding Magician of Black Chaos Max. At this point, you could set any trap card or any quick play spell card, but preferably you want to get E-Soul. And once we do that, we're pretty much set to ruin our opponent's day. But before we get to the next step, there's a few things I want to point out. We've special summoned 3 times and have not normal summoned yet. So you could still summon Rod or any other card and you'll still be safe from Nibiru. Also, notice how the combo ended with Inception in the hand. This card is not needed for any further plays, so you can discard it with Souls and get an extra draw from it. With all that in mind, you can end your turn now. Although, just because we're ending our turn doesn't mean the combo's over. The rest of it happens during your opponent's draw phase. Activate Eternal Soul, but do not activate its effect. Only flip it over. This will trigger Magician of Chaos' effect. Have him target and destroy himself. This will then trigger his other effect, where he can special summon Magician of Black Chaos Max from your hand. At this point, the opponent may try to use Called by the Grave or DD Crow on Magician of Chaos. This is why you want Eternal Soul to be the card that you flip over, because you can actually chain Eternal Soul to those cards and then fish out Magician of Chaos from your graveyard, preventing him from being banished and having his effect negated. But if the opponent doesn't do anything in that point, then might as well just leave Magician of Chaos in the graveyard. We could use him there for later. So, special summon Chaos Max. His effect activates. When he special summon, you contribute a monster to prevent your opponent from activating any monster effects for the entire turn, basically giving you game. Who you tribute depends on what you think your opponent has. If they have infinite impermanence, Chaos should tribute himself. The tribute is cost, so they wouldn't have the chance to target him. If the opponent didn't try to use Called by the Grave on Magician of Chaos earlier and you think they might have it, tribute Talismandra instead. Now your opponent is locked out of monster effects and you can still bring back Magician of Chaos whenever you want. At this point, the opponent typically scoops and calls you a slur, but we win, so it's all good. So, since now you understand the main play, here's how we're going to do this. I'll reveal each card as I teach you how to use them. This way you'll get a good idea how everything interacts with each other. Since you've already seen the ritual combo, I'll reveal those cards now. We're playing only 1 copy of each of the following: Magician of Black Chaos Max, Magician of Chaos, Incantation Chalice Slime, Talismandra, Candle, and Inception. Already, I know you're confused as to why there's only 1 copy of all the main combo pieces. That's because it's actually better to open the cards that search for them, as they give you more resources than the combo pieces would by themselves. Though if you're still having doubts, don't worry, we'll do consecutive test hands later to show what I mean. As for the last part of the combo, I know this will raise some eyebrows too, but for the complete opposite reason. We're playing a full playset of Eternal Soul. And look, I know in a normal Dark Magician deck you're only supposed to play 1 or 2, but this is not a normal Dark Magician deck. While this slot can be any trap or quick play card for the combo, Eternal Soul protects Magician of Chaos on board, saves him from being banished from the graveyard, prevents his effect from being negated, and of course, brings him back whenever we need him. It's by far the best third piece for the ritual combo. As for the worry of getting 2 in your opening hand for playing too many, I'll go even further and say that's a good thing, even better than opening just 1. Here's a couple of reasons why. Let's say you finish the combo and you've got 2 Eternal Souls on board. This actually gives us both an offensive and defensive play. So we got the combo set. We flip over the first E-Soul. Let's pretend the opponent chains with something like Infinite Imperm. Me, look at me, I'm Imperm. Since Imperm was chained to Eternal Soul flipping over, Magician of Chaos is not protected by E-Soul, so his effect would get negated and we'd fail the combo. but if we have a second Insol on board, we can chain that to Imperm and then Magician of Chaos would be unaffected and our combo will go through. That's the defensive play. Now let's talk about the offensive. Most of the time, we won't end the combo with Dark Magical Circle, but that's fine. We have other ways to get things off the opponent's board, one of which is a second Eternal Soul. So let's go back to the same scenario as before. But this time, the opponent doesn't have a hand trap to try to negate Magician of Chaos. That means our combo goes through and we still have a second Eternal Soul face down. At whatever point you think is best, bring back Magician of Chaos with the Eternal Soul that's already face up. From here, even though you already activated Eternal Soul and its effect is only once per turn, you can still flip over the second Eternal Soul after bringing back Magician of Chaos and it'll trigger his effect again. Only this time, you target a card on the opponent's side of the field, popping it and getting it off the board. Alright, let's talk about the other cards you've already seen in the tutorial combo. 1 Dark Magician and 1 Dark Magician Girl. A lot of you might be thinking that it'd be better to play 2 Dark Magicians, but no. Magician of Chaos counts as Dark Magician while on the field and in the graveyard. So once you get the hang of reliably bringing him out, it'll feel like you don't even need another Dark Magician. I mean, even Yu-Gi only used 1 Dark Magician.
Since he's useless, I'll sacrifice my Dark Magician!
It'll feel like it, but trust me, he's not completely useless. We still need to run him at 1. As for Dark Magician Girl, she does more in this deck than in a normal Dark Magician deck. We'll eventually get to some of her roles in this next segment. Earlier, I mentioned Dark Magical Circle, so let's reveal that one now. This card gets a major boost when it's used with Magician of Chaos. Whenever you bring him out, it'll trigger Circle, which in turn will then trigger him back. So you get a banish and a pop off of 1 move. But there's another card that becomes arguably just as good or even better than Circle when used with Magician of Chaos. That card is Magician's Salvation. I'll explain why. When you activate Circle, you're hoping and praying you don't miss its search effect, which sadly, usually misses. Magician's Salvation, on the other hand, is guaranteed to get you Eternal Soul. You're not going to miss with that effect, making it more reliable than Circle. And I know what you're thinking, Circle has that banish effect though. Salvation doesn't do anything offensive. And to that I say,
But wait! There's more!
Salvation has a second effect. Whenever Dark Magician, or the girl, hits the field, it brings back the other from the grave. While that effect on its own isn't great, what's important is it triggers Magician of Chaos, meaning Magician's Salvation can both set up Eternal Soul and give you a trigger for Magician of Chaos every time you bring him back. It's essentially a secondary pseudo circle with a better search effect when used in the ritual build. And sadly, it's easier to put Dark Magician Girl in the grave for this setup than it is to get a search off of Circle, especially in this deck. Alright, at this point, you're most likely realizing that Magician of Chaos gives all Dark Magician cards additional utility. With that said, let's talk about Soul Servant. We're playing it at 3 for the same reasons you would in a normal Dark Magician deck. But here, it has a couple of more uses. The first and more common use, you can use it to search for Magician of Chaos himself. This is part of the reason I'm comfortable playing him at only 1 copy. Other times, you might already have everything you need for the ritual combo and have an extra Soul Servant in hand. When this happens, it might be best to set it instead of use it right away. This way, it can be used to trigger Magician of Chaos on the opponent's turn as needed, whether it's used defensively in place of the second Eternal Soul, or offensively after Magician of Chaos is brought back. Next up, we're running 2 Illusion of Chaos. I'll never understand why Konami made it so that it can't search Magician of Chaos, but it's still a good card. And once again, I'd argue it's even better in this deck than any other type of Dark Magician deck. In a normal Dark Magician deck, you'd never summon him. But here, there's actually multiple reasons and ways to do it. Magician of Chaos can cheat Illusion of Chaos out. Then, after Illusion of Chaos negates a monster effect, it places itself back in your hand and summons back the same Magician of Chaos that brought him out, allowing him to activate his destruction effect again. Though, I should point out, you cannot loop this. Magician of Chaos' summoning effect only works while he's ritual summoned, and not special summoned by other ways. Since we're this deep into normal Dark Magician cards, let's show the rest off here. 2 Magician's Rods. We're only playing him at 2 because there's another monster we're using for our normal summon that we'll get to later. And I'm gonna be real with y'all, in a ritual Dark Magician deck, it feels like we can drop this guy to 1. His main purpose is to search for Eternal Soul for the combo, but Magician's Salvation does a better job at it since it can't be Ash Blossomed and it doesn't take up your normal summon. Not to mention the trigger tech I talked about earlier. And of course, I know Rod can search Salvation, but 99% of the time, I'd rather use our normal summon for the other monster we'll get to later. So in short, I'm most likely going to drop Rod to 1 and put up Salvation by 1. Since we have all our level 7's rituals out, it's about time we reveal Preparation of Rites. Before I talk about this card, it would be better if I reveal the next card since it goes well with it. It should be obvious, we're playing Magician's Souls at 3, and I'm very sorry budget players, but this time you cannot replace this guy with fusion deployment. I'll explain why. We use Souls a bit differently in a ritual build than a normal Dark Magician deck. We typically send Dark Magician Girl to the graveyard and not the main man. This is to set up the Salvation tech explained earlier and to get an extra draw from Soul Servant, since we usually have no problem bringing out Magician of Chaos on the first turn. Having Magician Souls on board also does a few things more than you would expect. Discarding for his effect is just as useful as the draws you get from it. Sending Incantation Inception to the grave can both help us get the remaining combo pieces from awkward hands, as well as help us get rid of both Incantation monsters on the field when we Ritual Summon, allowing us to go into our extra deck again afterwards. Not to mention, Inception also adds itself to our hand at some point after Souls discards it, making the draw we get from it free. And of course, since we're using ritual spells, discarding them with Souls also lets us use Preparation of Rites to its full potential. I'm not kidding when I say this, but sometimes because of Preparation of Rites, we can go full combo and still have 5 cards in our hand by the end of the turn. Before I show off the last 2 Dark Magician cards in the deck, I need to show you the final ritual monster we're running. The monster that allows us to win games even if we go second. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon. Although I typically refer to him as Blue Chaos to differentiate him from Black Chaos. At first, I was playing this card just to get some good footage, but it's proven itself very worthy of the deck. Being a dragon, chaos, and ritual monster gives it amazing synergy with the rest of the strategy. Magician of Chaos can cheat it out with its effect. It can be ritual summoned with the same spells as the rest of the chaos monsters, and it's very flexible to fuse with, as it's both a dragon and a chaos monster, giving us options to go into Dragoon, Dragonite, and even Master of Chaos. And of course, the best part of all, it's anime as all hell. Now, I just can't wait for the new Blackluster Ritual monster to come out, because I really want to try that out. I feel like it might work with the deck, we'll see. Now then, it's only fitting the next card I show is Chaos Form. I used to be very against running this card, but it's won me over. It can unbrick hands with Incantation Candle, as well as help us extend further. While Incantation Inception is the ritual spell we'll be using most of the time, Chaos Form is still very useful as it's searchable with Rod and recyclable with Soul Servant. The ability to ritual summon by banishing Dark Magician from the graveyard can also be very clutch. There's a bit more I want to say about this card, but we'll come back to it. Secrets of Dark Magic. Some of you may be thinking running this and Chaos Form might be a bit too much, but from all the testing I've done, it feels like we need both. At least for the first game where you're not sure if you're going first or second. After that, you can side out one or the other if you want to add more fusion plays or focus more on ritual plays. Also, Secrets with Magician of Chaos can give you some pretty nutty plays. Activating this triggers his effect before he leaves the field, letting you pop a card. Then he fuses, then you can bring him back and pop something again, all in the same turn. It's possible to get even more destruction loops when you use Rod's Tributing effect and Soul Summoning effect properly. You can destroy an entire board with just his effect if you use it right. Though it would require quite a bit of setup, but I mean, this is Dark Magician, we have to do that all the time anyway. Timaeus the United Dragon. This is typically the play I go into if Chalice Slime gets negated or if my hands open a bit awkward. We can go into Dragoon and Dragonite, of course, though half the time I actually use it as tribute fodder for either of the Chaos Max monsters, especially for when I lock myself out of the extra deck. Being a level 8 searchable dragon monster makes it pretty versatile, at least in this build. Before I get to the next cards, I should mention they all have some form of interaction with the extra deck, so we'll reveal extra deck monsters first and then work our way back to them. The Dark Magicians. I don't have much to say about this card other than, what the hell Konami, this should have been so much better. You don't have to play it at all, honestly, but I'm sticking to running one as it's the easiest fusion to go into. Next up is actually my go-to fusion, Dark Magician the Dragon Knight. A level 8 dragon monster that counts as Dark Magician and protects your back row. Having this guy out during the ritual combo gives some great security, though sometimes he can actually give us an alternate route to the ritual lockdown. I'll show you what I mean. Sometimes you won't be able to do the traditional ritual combo, but that's fine. And I know this hand example here is very specific, but we have several ways to go into this alternate route. Since Dark Magician the Dragonite is a level 8 monster and counts as Dark Magician, you can actually use Secrets of Dark Magic on the opponent's turn, tributing him to do the Chaos Max lockdown that way.
And let's not forget, he counts as Dark Magician in the graveyard, so banishing him with Chaos form is another option we have to bring out the Chaos Max monsters. Next up is Master of Chaos. We have so many ways to summon him, it feels like we have to play him. And let me say, I'm glad he's in here. I actually use his field wipe effect way more often than you'd expect. It's definitely not the first play I go into when I go second, but it's a very good backup plan when the opponent uses all of their negates on the usual ritual play, and since the incantation monsters are both light and dark, the ritual combo naturally sets up Master of Chaos nicely. And now, the guy I know you're all expecting. The totally not overpowered, totally not self-insert OC.
He's got super strength and super speed, and he can fly and raise your eyes. Sit in the corner.
Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Now, there's no special or unique way to use him in the ritual build as far as I know, you just let him do his thing as he normally would. And I know I'm probably gonna get some heat for this, but most of the time, Dragonite is the better choice to go into first for the ritual build. Okay. Notice how I said usually and first. We still use Dragoon. A lot. Especially when going second and up against certain decks. But part of the reason we prefer Dragonite most of the time is for a very interesting play. I think might even convince some of you guys to do the same, but that's for a little bit later, we'll get to it. For now, let's talk about Herald of the Arclight and our preferred normal summon, Diviner of the Herald. These cards add a crazy amount of consistency for the ritual combo, and it gives us some post-first turn ritual plays, usually into Blue Chaos. I've also seen in the comments of previous videos that Diviner can let us do some insane Exceed and Synchro plays, but I still need to do some testing on it, so I might make another video on that later. Now, for what enables the best search in the deck. We've got a full playset of Nadir's Servant. When activating it, we typically send Garura, Wings of Resonant Life, to the grave to search for Dogmatika Maximus. Garura then gives us a free draw. Maximus special summons itself by banishing Garura from our graveyard. Maximus then activates its onboard effect to send Herald of the Arclight and Frigid, the Barret Blossom from our extra deck, to the graveyard. Herald lets us search for any ritual monster or spell, and Frigid gives us another draw and then allows us to put a card from our hand back into the deck. An amazing effect to have if we got unlucky and drew into one of the Brick Imps. Let's finish up the main deck now, yeah? We're playing 3 Branded Fusions and 1 Fallen of Albaz, which let us go into Labillion the Searing Dragon. Okay, we've got enough revealed here that now I can show you one of the plays that justifies going into Dragonite first. So let's get to that. This combo is very easy to do as it only requires 2 specific cards and one of them is extremely searchable. So you should be able to do this every time you draw into Branded Fusion. It's even possible to do this alongside some variations of the ritual combo, but that requires some sort of God Hands. But it's still good to know that this is an optional play to go into. Anyway, we go into Dragonite. Notice how we can use Magician of Chaos since he counts as Dark Magician in the grave. Now I'm pretty sure you can see where we're going with this. Branded Fusion gave us a card that counts as Dark Magician on the field, and a dragon. All we gotta do now is fuse them with an extremely searchable card and bam. We've got Dragoon on the field and Dragonite in the grave, which we can easily bring back whenever we need it.
How do you decide between
Dragoon and Dragonite?
¿Por qué no los dos?
Old El Paso, feed your fiesta?
Alright, next is my favorite Link monster to go into. Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. Non-targeting banishing, while he himself can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects. Like, what else is there to say? Oh yeah, he has other 2 effects that are also amazing. Nice. I also dabble with the Wee Witch. I know Dark is where it's at right now, but I'd rather have the option to get a ritual monster back from my graveyard. The attack boost is also nice sometimes, too, you know. Oh no wait, yeah, we're also playing Dark. Yeah, that's true. Although this next card is the real Link 2 we go into. Dyna Mondo. This guy gives us even more ways to do the ritual lock on the opponent. It also makes it so that the imps aren't always bricks in the hand. Very nice backup option. And lastly, since we still don't have our own Link 1, Artemis the Magistus Moon Maiden. She puts Rod in the grave and lets us tribute her to bring back Rod to our hand. Same strategy as the regular Dark Magician deck, nothing different here. Normally, I don't talk too much about the side deck, but there are a couple of things I want to mention, so I'll show it off here after all. I've got a bit of a Dragoon fusion kit going on here. It feels fine, though I'm debating replacing it with more branded stuff. Though what I really want to talk about is what's not in here. I'm sure many of you have noticed I'm not playing any hand traps. There's two reasons for that. One is the main deck is mostly built for going first. Hand traps in the main would only get in the way of consistency. If we're playing something as bricky as Dark Magician, we need every card in our hand to benefit our own play. I'd much rather put all of my focus building up my own board. The second reason is most meta decks don't really care if they get ashed or impermed, they'll continue on with their combos anyway, which is why I prefer things like Dark Ruler No More and Swords of Concealing Light. When I activate these, my opponent already finished building up their board, so a blanket effect like these going off would be most impactful. Also, just a little bonus thing here, comboing Blue Eyes Chaos Max with Swords of Concealing Light is fun, like really fun. You can also ignore the Magician's Salvation in there, that's just there as a reminder for me possibly adding in another one or taking out Rod. And most likely gonna put in another Diviner or something. So anyway, this version of the deck I feel has the most powerful end boards, but it can take a lot of practice before you get used to doing alternate paths to do the ritual combo. So if you're having trouble getting to the combo, I recommend doing something closer to this build instead. It moves the branded stuff over to the side deck to be able to do the basic ritual combo more consistently. So, hope that helped you guys out. I'm going to be doing a couple of test hands just to show off the consistency of the previous build.